"Don't touch that," the maid whispered urgently, her gloved fingers gripping his shoulder tightly. The delicate porcelain cup quivered in his hand. James Rutherford, real estate magnate and CEO of Rutherford Holdings, sat motionless at his garden breakfast table, his mansion sprawling behind him, his eyes squinting as he turned to face her. "What did you just say?" he murmured, his tone hushed. Eliza's gaze flicked toward the house, her words barely audible. "Please don't drink it. It was meant to be an impeccable morning. In 2 hours he'd face investors." His personal chef was absent today, but the new maid, Eliza, had volunteered to serve him tea. Polite, meticulous, unobtrusive, the way exceptional staff should be, or so he'd assumed until this moment. James peered at the cup. Just tea, or so it appeared. But Eliza's face was ashen, her breathing rapid, and her eyes, they weren't the eyes of someone confused. They were the eyes of someone desperate to save him. "What's inside it?" he asked, his voice deliberate. Eliza faltered, her tone unsteady. "I saw her, your girlfriend, this morning in the kitchen. She added something from a small brown vial. I wasn't supposed to be there, she didn't notice me." James's stomach churned. "Victoria?" Eliza nodded. That seemed unthinkable. Victoria was graceful, refined, loyal. Yes, she enjoyed extravagance, but murder? Absurd. Yet a knot tightened in his chest. He studied the cup again. Steam rose in delicate tendrils, carrying a faint, metallic odor. "Why are you warning me?" he asked, his voice now sharp with distrust. Eliza stood firm, her grip on his shoulder steady. "Because I lost someone the same way." He blinked. "What are you talking about?" "My father," she said softly. "He drank something like that, poisoned by someone he trusted." Her hands shook, the yellow cleaning gloves creaking faintly. "They called it a stroke, but I knew. I always knew." James carefully placed the cup on the table. "You'd better tell me everything." Eliza nodded, her eyes locked on the house. "I came here using a false name. I'm not just a maid, I'm investigating a pattern. 3 wealthy men in this region died mysteriously in the past year. One was my father. All 3 were involved with women tied to the same social circle. One of those women was Victoria's roommate." He stared at her. "You're saying Victoria's part of a group that kills rich men?" "I don't just suspect," she whispered. "I'm certain." James felt his world tilt. Victoria had moved in just 2 months ago, swift to profess love, quick to propose joint bank accounts, eager to claim she was unlike his ex-wife. Then he recalled the missing files from his desk last week, the sudden need to reset his financial passwords. Victoria had blamed a glitch. He trusted her until now. A shadow crossed the table. Eliza stiffened and turned. Victoria stood in the patio doorway, draped in a silk robe, her smile slow and menacing. "James," she said, gliding toward them, "I prepared your tea myself today. Wanted to pamper you a bit." James rose. "I'm not in the mood for tea." Victoria's smile wavered. "Is something the matter?" Eliza edged slightly in front of him, shielding him. "He's aware." Victoria's expression turned cold, her polished charm fracturing for a moment. "Well," she said, her voice like ice, "that's regrettable." James slipped his hand into his pocket, activating his phone's silent alert. Security would arrive in 60 seconds. But Victoria didn't flee. She merely smirked. "You're clever, James, but not clever enough. Without her meddling, you'd be slipping away peacefully by now." "Why?" he demanded, his voice cracking. "Why would you do this?" She shrugged. "Because men like you never suspect. You think we crave your affection. We only want what you've taken from others. You were going to die for justice, for equilibrium," she said frigidly. Security stormed through the side gate moments later, but Victoria had already shed her pretense. She surrendered silently, her gaze fixed on Eliza as they led her away. Eliza collapsed into the chair opposite James, her gloves still damp with morning dew. "You saved me," he said, his voice barely audible. "I couldn't let another man die for trusting the wrong person," she replied. Later that day, after hours of police interviews and a thorough search of the estate, the authorities verified Eliza's account. Victoria was connected to 2 previous suspicious deaths. She and her network preyed on wealthy men, using charm to infiltrate their lives before eliminating them for inheritance and assets. Eliza had gone undercover, risking her own life, driven solely by a quest for justice. James stood beside her at the police station, his voice firm. "Join my team, not as staff but as an equal. You're sharper than most detectives I've employed." She smiled faintly. "I didn't do this for a career." "I know," he said. "That's why I trust you." In a world of deception and masks, sometimes the softest warning can save a life. All it takes is someone courageous enough to speak up. Before we close, we'd love to hear where you're tuning in from. Share your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far this tale has traveled. If this story sent shivers down your spine, subscribe to the channel, tap that like button and leave a karma in the comments below.